We are here today to address you on matters of national importance, matters regarding the continued trial of civilians in the military tribunal, matters regarding the continued illegal incarceration of our leader, Dr. KIZZA Besigye, and Haj Obed Rutare, and their lawyer, Counsel Aaron KIZZA. We are here to also address you on the forthcoming judgment that the Chief Justice Owiny Dolo is expected to deliver to us on the 31st this week. So I'll request Mr. Nkonge Charles to come and present the question.
Good morning, members of the press. My name is Youth League spokesperson, PFF. I've been given a small responsibility to issue the statement on behalf of my fellow young people. In PFF, other forces of change, and Uganda at large. This is our statement on the forthcoming Supreme Court ruling as in regards to the trial of civilians in the court-martial. We, the PFF Youth Brigade, are gathered here today to voice our deep concerns about the Supreme Court's upcoming judgment on the continued trial of civilians in military tribunals. As many of you are aware, the victims of these trials are predominantly young people. It is clear that Mr. Museveni and his regime have used the military tribunals as a tool of political oppression, especially against political opponents. This practice is not unique to Uganda. Dictators across the world have resorted to military tribunals to bypass judicial independence and transfer the jurisdiction of the civil courts under the guise of national security. You've always heard the army spokesperson saying, these are security concerns. We are protecting Ugandans. So in the guise of protecting Ugandans, they end up taking civilians to court-martial. However, constitutional courts in many countries, by the way, have ruled such trials unconstitutional and unlawful. Unfortunately, Uganda followed a disturbing trend in the opposite direction. To date, over 2,000 Karamajong youths have been detained in various facilities following orders from these military tribunals. These young people, many of whom are innocent, they deserve better than being subject to unjust military trials. I was among the 36 youths who were abducted from Kenya and arraigned before High Court and charged with terrorism. We were remanded to Kitalia for 3 months, and this is what we saw. And in regards to Karamajong young people who are detained in Kitalia and the rest of the prisons in Uganda, Kitalia has a population of around 3,800 inmates. And amongst those, over 45% come from Karamoja. Like the leader of Uganda Law Society stressed last time, that their first time to come to Kampala is when they are produced before the military court. So they need justice. In addition to those, in Kitalia, the security institution ransacked a whole village in Zombo district and arrested a whole village. Can you imagine? Those people are there in Kitalia. They are before the court-martial. They have been remanded there since 2021. There are also a number of 30 young people who were arrested from Nebi. They are again produced before court-martial. They have been on remand since 2020, they have never received justice. It is also well known that during the 2021 election period, many young activists, including those affiliated with the National Unity Platform, were unlawfully arrested and detained for over 4 years. In a flagrant disregard of law, individuals like this Mr. Balam, Minister of Youth and Children, you can imagine, lured young people into taking plea bargain and pleading guilty to charges of treachery, a decision that will haunt them for the rest of their life. We left there 9 comrades of theirs and comrades of ours who have refused to take this plea bargain. Currently, our own struggle icon, Dr. KIZZA Besigye, along with his AD Hajobed Kamlegea Lutale, are illegally detained and facing a sham trial in a military tribunal. Following their abduction from Nairobi, Kenya, it is alarming to note that, according to statements from Mr. Museveni's son, the fate of Dr. KIZZA Besigye is all but sealed, with plans of his execution in Igulu on 9th May 2025. God forbid. Dr. Besigye is one of the many Ugandan civilians who have been subjected to military tribunals that offers no justice. Like I've said, there is no justice in the court martial. Kitalia prison has many civilians who are passed through court martial, and I can tell you, judgments are never delivered. They force them into plea bargain. So you have to plead guilty. If you have been on remand on 5 years, so they tell you, you go to plea bargain, we give you the amount of years you've served, and then you will be released in the next month. So you come out when you are convicted. As the young people of Uganda, we call upon the Supreme Court to reject this dangerous trend and not allow the continued use of military tribunals against civilians, just as we witnessed with the regrettable removal of the age limit. Supreme Court has always disappointed us when it comes to important matters that concern every Ugandan, young and old. During the age limit, we had trusted the Supreme Court to offer us a judgment and take us into Christmas. They instead decided otherwise. This time round, we humbly request them to think about the future of this country, to think about the future of their children, their grandchildren, who will be subjected to torture through court tribunals, like it used to be during Amin's time. You know, I've read a lot about Amin, and I read a book called Dungeons of Nakasero. The writer therein states that he was taken into a dungeon, and one day he was brought out and taken before a kangaroo court to answer charges. It's the same thing that's happening today. Someone gets arrested from nowhere, anywhere, even outside the jurisdictions of Uganda, and produced before court martial. This is against the law, and we expect the Supreme Court to decide as so, to uphold the decisions of the Constitutional Court in Kabaziguruka versus Uganda. In conclusion, we the PFF Youth Brigade urge young people across all political divide to take charge of their country, as prescribed by the Constitution, and stand against any attempts to legalize the subjugation of civilians to martial law. So I thank you very much. But before I go, I need to tell you that, and also let this message goes to the Supreme Court, that they know that any bad law is no law at all. I thank you very much. I'll invite my
Morning. Nothing happens to him that we've not foreseen, that he has not expected before. He's strong in although he's still under a very, very rough condition of being isolated within prison. They do not allow him to engage in prayer with other inmates or even engage with other inmates. So he's put under isolation completely, which is totally illegal. The legislators visiting Dr. Besigye, we do not expect much from them. Except for them visiting him, the most important thing they should do for us is to make sure that Dr. Besigye exits Luzira prison and that civilians should not be tried in the military tribunals again.
Yes, do after the judgment as young people of this country is, for now we can't tell what is going to, we can't tell how the judgment will be, whether it will be in the favor of citizens or it will be in the favor of the dictator. But for us as young people in this country, we are very ready and determined. Whatever the case that it will be, for now we want that judgment to come out, because it has been long overdue. You get, it has been long overdue, and it has made a lot of people to lynch in jail illegally. So as young people of this country, we cannot sit and watch as our colleagues are dying in prisons. You cannot say that a government that has spent 39 years in government, in NRM, the recent celebration 39 years of NRM, but you can't tell me that at this age and era, you keep taking young people in military courts in fear of either being toppled or something. No, that bullshit has to stop. Thank you.
On the fact that these matters are not about Dr. KIZZA Besigye alone. We've given you an example of 2,000 Karamajongs who are struggling in prisons. We've given you examples of the NUP youth that are suffering in the prisons as a result of the military tribunal. So, like I said, Parliament should come out and support the idea of not trying civilians in the military tribunals, and that's when we will know that they are really serious and up to the cause. Amanyi tusuubira mu Supreme Court. Wenaasalawo mu feva yaffe, Abannayuganda bajja kukiraba, bajja kusanyukira. Singa esalawo mu nsala ey'ekimpatira ey'ekinnakyemalira, Constitution etukkiriza under Article 3 okukola ekyetaagisa okugenda mu maaso. So katusooke tulinde olwokutaano tulabe kooti kyenaasalawo, tujja kubabulira ekiddako.
Freedom for all. Free Obed Lutale.
Free Obed Lutale.
Free Council Aaron KIZZA.
Free Council Aaron KIZZA.
Free all political prisoners.
Free all political prisoners.
All for freedom.
Freedom for all.
Freedom for all.
All for freedom.
Ra.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Seven will go, seven will go, seven will go someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe seven will go someday. Thank you very much.
Whose is this? Whose is this? Can I let you enter?